What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're currently living in the golden age of ideas, with AI building literally anything is possible. In this phase of AI, the people who will thrive aren't necessarily the ones with the most resources or the biggest teams. They're the ones with the best ideas and spotting the opportunities and bringing concepts to life faster than ever before. And I'm not the only one saying this. One of YC Combinator's most viewed videos with almost 800,000 views is them talking about exactly this.
Every 3 months, things have just kept getting progressively better. And now we're at this point where we're talking about full-on vertical AI agents that are going to replace entire teams and functions and enterprises.
In this video, they go directly into talking about where people who build AI agents could win and build huge million-dollar businesses and how it's all in the idea. They say the key is in identifying boring, repetitive admin tasks, and if you can uncover one of these mundane processes and dig deep enough, there's likely a billion-dollar AI agent startup waiting to be built. We're in such an exciting time with AI right now that you can even get AI to help you uncover these business ideas and start it from scratch faster than ever before. That's exactly what I've built in this video, and I'll be showing you how to build it as well. Google Gemini 3 days ago just released their most powerful AI model yet, even them saying our most intelligent AI model, and it's even designed to tackle very complex problems, and most notably how it's been beating all the famous models such as Claude 3.7 and OpenAI models, and even scoring extremely high in science and mathematics. And I'm sure if you've been on YouTube or Twitter recently, I'm sure you've seen all the hype around how good it is in making games and making anything come to life. But I wanted to use this channel's favorite tool, N8N, and seeing just what we can build with it and making our dreams come reality as well. So what I've built here is your very own AI startup co-founder, leveraging the most intelligent AI model that we have to date, Gemini 2.5, to not only expand on your ideas, but to create a business logo, and to code a landing page to get your very first customers in the door. So this landing page was completely created by the automation you saw in N8N, and I'm going to walk step by step how I did it. If you like this content or have found any value from it, like, subscribe, comment what you thought was cool, and if you want any of these workflows or any of the past videos workflows, join the school community. It'll be a link below, and let's hop right into it. But before I run it, I'm going to show you what we're starting with. In Google Sheets, we have a startup idea, AI for home renovation, a target audience, which is contractors, and a problem-solved, time-consuming estimate. This workflow will go step-by-step in giving the market analysis, positioning of this business, and how it will create its own niche, landing page headlines, subheadlines, a call to action, a slogan, a logo prompt to be able to generate a logo image, Twitter bio to start your social media presence, and then it'll also give you the HTML for that landing page, as well as the logo URL that it generates. So let's go ahead and test this workflow. You see it's got the information from Google Sheets, and now it's going directly into Gemini 2.5 to create the business plan, get the market analysis, create the prompt, and now we're going into the image generation, which is an MCP tool to generate our image within Google Flash. It split that image URL out, and now it's getting the code for the landing page and crafting your own HTML landing page tailored specifically for this business. It will then go into the HTML structure code node to parse it out and structure it a little bit better so you can copy and paste it into your editor of your choice. And lastly, it will update all the Google Sheets. We see that we have all these columns filled out: market analysis, positioning, headline for our landing page, generate home renovation estimates in minutes, not hours, subheadline, call to action. And we also have full HTML code for our entire landing page, which we can copy and paste into any editor or any index.html file and run this and see what it looks like. We also have our own logo URL, which is created by our personalized MCP connection within N8N. Let's jump back over to N8N and see exactly how I built this. So the first will be getting the idea. It will be grabbing those first columns from the Google Sheets, such as the startup idea, target audience, problem solved. So you only need 3 things to get this entire automation up and running. And you could even go a step further and have AI populate those 3 columns. So you can have an infinite loop of business ideas and constantly having new ideas come fresh into you. Next, we have a limit, and this is going to be returning only the most recent. So once you have more business ideas in there, it will get the freshest one and input that into the model. So into the brains of this first step, I have a basic LLM chain here with a clear prompt of what I want it to do, saying that you're an expert startup founder and to research the startup idea, the target audience, and the problem that we're going to be solving. Now, important part of this will be the system message that I give it, and it's important because you need to have a specific way that you're outputting this data to be able to parse it correctly on the back end to upload it back into your Google Sheets. So notice how this prompt says, output only valid JSON that strictly conforms to the following schema. Do not include any extra words, markdown, or explanations. So I give it all the columns or all the specific business that I want to be researching, which is market analysis, positioning, landing page, logo prompt, Twitter bio. And I give it a very quick description of what that is and what to get back. And then lastly, the schema for how I want it to be outputted. Connecting to the Gemini 2.5 model, I went through OpenRouter. And if you don't have an OpenRouter account, it's basically a way to be able to connect to multiple different models and get access to the latest ones. So you see that OpenRouter already has Gemini Pro 2.5 in here. You can click this and see what it's all about. You see that it's Google's state-of-the-art model designed for advanced reasoning, coding, mathematics, and scientific tasks. And you see that the key thing with Gemini 2.5 and the crazy attribute is it's 1 million token context window, which is 5 to 10 times more than any of the other context windows whenever you're talking about Claude 3.7 or OpenAI. So if you wanted to use this in a code setting, it gives you the code here within OpenAI as well. But the cool thing with OpenRouter is you're able to have all these connections based on one API key, which in OpenRouter you can easily set up by going to settings and then API keys and creating a new key here. And then once you have that key, you can hop back over to N8N, paste that key into your credential. And then selecting the model here, Gemini 2.5 Pro, it was released 3 days ago and it's free. There is also a Google Gemini chat model tool that has 2.5 available here, but I went the OpenRouter path just for simplicity purposes, and I already had an OpenRouter account. Now next, jumping into the structured output parser, we can see on the left that this is all the text that Gemini 2.5 output based on all the parameters that we pass on to it to search for our AI startup business. And this SOP node is basically turning all this long form text into single attributes such as market analysis, positioning, landing page, call to action, slogan, logo prompt, to be able to match those up to our columns and input them back into Google Sheets. So next, we need to update our Google Sheet with the rows that we have. So you see we have the output from the business plan, and I went with sheet within a document, update row as our operation. And then I selected my document, which is AI Startup, the Google Sheets name. I only have one sheet in there, so sheet 1 is the only option. And then mapping these manually and column to match will be the startup idea to make sure that we are inputting all the data that we just got from our Gemini model into the correct column with the correct startup idea. So I mapped this from our limit node, just going back to getting the startup idea, dragging and dropping it in there. And next, I just went down the list of matching columns to the outputs, dragging and dropping market analysis, positioning, landing page, and so on and so forth until all the columns that I had were properly set up. And next, jumping into creating our logo, added a little flair here and created a logo with the MCP. So this is using Google Vertex AI generate image. There's multiple ways you can do this. You can do this with Flux, which I know is a very popular way to do it, but that involves going to Hugging Face and getting all these other connections that you might not necessarily want to be doing. And I found that this was the most straightforward way with the least amount of connections to be able to create and generate an image. So I did this with the Zapier MCP. And if you aren't familiar with the Zapier MCP or how to connect it or how to set it up, I have a video which I'll link here, which goes step by step on how to set that up. So I'm not going to go through that fully in this video, but I'll show how to set up the Google Vertex AI Generate. So hopping over to Zapier, once you're in your edit actions and seeing all the current actions and past actions that you've implemented, you can see that I have Google Vertex AI Generate Image and it's toggled to on. So how I did that, I just went to add a new action. You can type in Google Generate Image, and you see that it gives you all these other really cool image generations. But for this video, I wanted to stick with the Google route. That's why we're using Google Sheets, Google Gemini 2.5, and it really fits with the theme. So I scrolled down to Google Vertex AI, and you'll see here that my account's already set up. But if you wanted to connect new, you'll need to get the ID of your Google Cloud project. And how I got that, I'm not sure if this is the best way or the cleanest way to do it, but once in your console.cloud.google account, you can go down to Vertex AI and go to chat. You'll be met with this screen here where you can go and press get code and it will give you the project ID right there. And you can copy that and paste it in here to be able to connect. And you'll have one or two things to click through and then it will connect successfully. And now an important thing to pay attention to here, as I mentioned in my last video talking about the Zapier MCP, is all the required fields that the MCP is counting on to have this connection set up successfully. You see that action, the account, the prompt, the project ID, model region, and the endpoint. And to get an idea of how this connection is going to be expecting parameters to be presented, the best way to do it is to have a list tools, and then you can run this list tools. So you see I just have my Zapier MCP to list tools, and then I'm just going to test this step. And you'll see that the Google Vertex AI generate image is the tool name, and the schema or the parameters that it wants to be passed are prompt, project ID, region, and endpoint. So you can copy this kind of structure over and then the tool name into your node to set it up correctly, and then play around with it once you have it successfully tested to be able to know what you can and can't change and what can be dynamic. So you can see that in my tool name, I have the tool hard-coded in there, as I'm not going to be using any other tool. And in my prompt, I have the preview only, the prompt getting passed dynamically, the project ID, the region, and the endpoint. And don't worry, I'm going to be deleting or regenerating my project ID after this video. So when setting this up, this does take a second to run as it's generating the image. And you'll see whenever it's run successfully that it will output the prompt plus the URL. And you will need to know that this URL is one-time use. So you will need to save this image if you want to use it over and over, and not only using the URL. Next, going into this code node, it's just very simple. It's going to be getting rid of everything else and only outputting the URL. And we're doing this so this next node, which is going to be generating all the HTML code for our landing page, can input that in and have it show as a quick preview. So hopping directly into this one, you see that I have a short prompt here and basically just explaining and getting all the key elements for our landing page that was generated by our original Gemini Business Planner, which is the heading, the sub headline, call to action, and the logo URL, which is that image URL. And I just wanted to have 2 text fields labeled name and phone number, and have a call to action with a button, and it's just saying generate fully runnable HTML code with inline CSS. And then for system prompt, just you're a senior developer, please write HTML code for a landing page for a business based on the user's prompt. And you see that we get this entire output here with you're a senior developer. Here's a simple runnable HTML code, which would be perfect if you wanted to just copy and paste from here. But hopping into the next code node, we take that just a little bit further and parse it down just a little bit to be able to get it to where we can fully copy and paste into our editor. So you see that from the input on the left, that it has all this additional text and characters, and on the right, we have simply just the HTML code here. And lastly, it rounds it all up by uploading all that back to Google Sheets, matching by the startup idea, and uploading the HTML and the logo URL. So hopping back into our AI startup Google Sheets, we can click into this and just Control A, copy it all, and go into our editor of choice. So I'm going to open up Cursor. I'm going to open up a new project, open that, and you see that I have a blank project here. And from here, you can really do this one of 2 ways. You can copy all that into the editor, or you can create your own index.html file and paste it in there. I'm going to be lazy and do it all through the agent, and I'm simply just going to create an index.html file for a landing page containing this code. I'll paste that code in there and send. And you see that it created our index.html file with our code in there, and we can please run this locally. 3006. Send. We can open this in the terminal, copy this, and see our landing page. Perfect. You can put your name in there, phone number, little animation on the button, and you see our AI estimator logo is not loading correctly, and that's likely due to what I said earlier about the URL link being a one-time use only, or just how it's structured. Let's see. Let's go over to our Google Sheets and open it up. And we'll likely see that there's a file lookup error. And go back to our here. You can go back and run this step again to get a fresh new URL. You see we have a new URL here. Copy this, paste it in our browser, and it will immediately download the image. So here's the image that it created. Obviously, it can be a little bit better with prompting, but connecting this MCP image generation tool is really cool in my opinion, and has a lot of use cases with how easy it actually makes it with connecting. With just a few clicks, you can have something set up and running without having to go through multiple different authentication processes or setting up different accounts. That is the true power of that Zapier MCP, which I think is going to be the future of how we're setting things up within Aiden. So now that we have our image downloaded, which we can do within the workflow, and to make this truly robust, you probably should download the image like that. We can go back to our cursor and we can create a new file called images, and we can go to our files and drag and drop that image into that. We can see that image is there. It has a background, so it's probably not going to look the best. We can then say, I have uploaded my company logo, and drag this over. Images folder, please update, and go back to the index and scroll down to where it's calling the image here. Add to chat, update the @index HTML file to call that image directly. And we can send that, and hopefully it will update this code here to call this image. And you see that now we have image source is the image here, and we can go back to our site, upload, and we have our logo there. Awesome. And we have all of our data that we can do so much with in our Google Sheets, such as the market analysis and the positioning. We can do a ton of that in our automation and creating content, creating copy for our business if this was something that we truly wanted to pursue. So awesome, guys. That's it for today's video. I really hoped you enjoyed it. I think it's truly awesome that we're able to build and launch something so quick.